Well, the Jets season is officially over. The Jets fall to the Seattle Seahawks by the score of 23-6. In a very non-competitive game, the Seahawks wind up scoring on their first three possessions. The vaunted Jets defense that was so strong throughout the entirety of the season in this back half of the season has really underwhelmed, and the glaring weakness at quarterback that we've had pretty much all season has reared its ugly head at the end of this season. Mike White goes 23 of 46 for 240 yards and 2 interceptions. He had the fumble at the end of the half as well. Really not a great game. I know there's going to be a lot to be said. 46 passes. Why the heck is Mike White dropping back that much? He also had the sacks on top of it. So really they called 50 plus pass plays. At least I think we had at least 4 sacks. Look, this is a disappointing season. It's on the season overall, probably on par or above where, we wanted to be. But going from the 6-3 point where we were at the point in the season to now be 7-9 is pretty alarming and pretty bad. It looked like today we just got whooped up and down the field. It felt like this team has given up. Like it doesn't feel like we had any fight left in us. We got embarrassed on national TV against the Jaguars last week, had an extra 3 days. You're talking we had a 10-day lead up to this game. And we had 3 days to think about the loss prior to the Saturday and Sunday games from last weekend, where we had literally everything happen for the Jets to still have a playoff shot. We had a 70% shot coming into today, and the Jets couldn't get it done. The coaching staff could not get the players up to play, and unfortunately, even with Mike White back in the lineup, I don't think he's, clearly not fully healthy, but it definitely did not look good across the board. Running back wise, Ty Johnson was our top back, 8 carries, 46 yards, 5.8 yards a carry. Zonovan Knight, 8 carries, 27 yards, 3.4 yards a carry. Another bad performance on the ground from the New York Jets. I think a lot of that does still stem from the inability to execute through the air. I think Seattle, even though they have a really bad run defense, they're able to sell out against the run because they just don't have faith that Mike White is going to be able to do what needs to be done. Now, prior to that last drive, I saw a stat. Mike White was 2 of 7 with 2 interceptions over 15 yards. That is going to have to be slightly adjusted because I think he did throw a few over 15 yards that last stretch there. Really not good. This is not good. I like Mike White a lot, but I don't think he's the quarterback of the future. I don't think Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh go into the offseason with him as the incumbent for next year. And I don't think they're just going to hope that Zach Wilson turns it around. I think we're all probably on board with a new quarterback at some point in the offseason. Right now, the Jets are sitting, I believe, was it pick 13? I think it's pick 13 on Tankathon. Yeah, it took this long to finally talk about the draft position. So right now we're sitting in the 13th slot. I guess it sort of depends on I guess we got to see what happens the rest of the way out. We could get as high as the 9th pick, depending on teams playing one another that are right in front of us. But the Jets will not be able to get in front of Carolina. So at the best case scenario, we're at the 9 spot. At the worst case scenario, I guess you could technically be picking at 18, 17, 18, somewhere in there. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't even know what happens this last week of the season. Clearly you want to try and win and do some kind of good going into the offseason, but if you don't think Mike White's the guy and you don't think Zach Wilson's the guy, you're not going to play Flacco. You're not going to play Strevler. We're just in a world of hurt. It's rough. I don't know. We'll see what winds up happening. V-Man, I did see your super chat in there. I'm just going to throw it up on my side because it happened before everything started up. Let's see. So V-Man comes in. Says, can't play with fire with Brady, can't afford a trade for Rodgers or Lamar, and can't hope Jimmy G can stay healthy. We need to get Derek Carr this offseason. And I see Mr. Buck Nation in there as well. He says, man, commitment to Wilson sunk the ship this year. I don't know if it did. We clearly swapped to White. I mean, maybe if we had swapped during the Patriot game, maybe something different happens in this stretch, but like, this is rough. I mean, we had a bunch of winnable games that we could have done something in, and it really did not go anywhere. So Buck Nation, I'm sorry. It's more than just Wilson, unfortunately. But getting back to V-Man's comment, he says, can't afford Brady. Look, for me, I don't want Brady, but I see the appeal that I think the coaching staff and Joe Douglas may see. And it's not just with Brady, it's with Rodgers too. It's the same idea where you trade or bring in a veteran. What's that? Sorry, got stuff making noise over here. You bring in a veteran quarterback, and you have the ability to now let Zach Wilson sit, so you're not admitting fault on the number 2 overall pick. You allow the athletic upside of Zach Wilson to hopefully start to flourish. I think that's where I'm at. I don't particularly want to trade Zach Wilson. I said that in my video earlier today. I think he's one of the least tradable commodities in the NFL right now. As far as Rodgers and Lamar, I think Lamar is probably a long shot to happen anyway. I don't want to give up that many picks because clearly this team needs a little bit more help than just quarterback, specifically on the offensive line. So I don't think that would be a wise move. Rodgers and Brady, I do think actually have like a realistic shot at happening if they can make the money work. If they can figure out how to do that, I could see that to save Zach. Now, as far as Jimmy G, I do think Jimmy G is the most likely prospect to come in here just because of his relationship with the staff and his familiarity with the playbook. I think that just seems like the safest, highest floor option. And if you're going to do that, I'd probably combine that with a mid-round draft pick that has some high upside, along with obviously Zach Wilson, and you have those 3 guys going into the season. Now, you see Derek Carr here. Seeing Jarrett Stidham play the way he played today makes me really concerned about Derek Carr. Like, as much as I was like, oh yeah, we gotta get Derek Carr, like that's the guy who's gonna set all these records for us. I mean, I still kind of feel that way, don't get me wrong, but like it definitely is nowhere near as confident as I was just like 2 days ago. Who knows? Norris Noves says Patrick Starr would be the next head coach of the New York Jets. Should be the next head coach of the New York Jets. Yeah, he called that turnover by Russell Wilson last week on the Nickathon game, or whatever they call those, the Nickelodeon slime games. Ian says, ask Madden for offensive coordinator next year. Seriously, that's what it feels like. OC, like for me, if they're going to fire someone, it's going to be LaFleur. I don't think you can go on this skid and not make some kind of adjustment to the coaching staff or some type of really strong adjustment. And it's not that I think LaFleur is inherently bad or that I think he's, I think he's victim of a bad quarterback situation, and it's compounded with the injuries that we have, particularly Breece Hall, Elijah Vera Tucker, today Nate Herbig, a few other issues. Obviously, the rotating tackles has not been a helpful thing as well. I don't know. I think LaFleur could definitely be the guy that has to fall on the sword, but who are you bringing in? Like, what's the play for the next guy in? I think is probably what a lot of Jet fans are asking here. Mumtaz says, it would be stupid to win last game. I am not even sure about Carr anymore based on what Stidham did against the best defense in the NFL. Maybe Carr is the issue. Yeah, Mumtaz, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I still think if there's enough... There's a lot of Raiders fans that feel like the fix was in for Carr. Like they were manipulating the way the offense was going to be played because they did not want Carr to be the guy. So maybe this is, Josh McDaniels being the offensive guru with Stidham because he wants someone other than Carr to look good. I mean, I think that's possible, but I do think Carr being the constant of teams that is kind of like stuck in a perpetual not quite good enough. I think it's easier to go that route than it is to go the Stidham is just, maybe they set everything up for Stidham. I don't know. I don't know the right move. I don't particularly want to win the last game of the season, but I don't know how you lose to Teddy Bridgewater. Not even Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater might not even be playing. It may wind up being Thompson that we saw. I don't think you're going to lose to Thompson and have yourself like a remotely okay offseason. I don't know. Team's got to get up and play, though. Grant says this franchise will never be successful with the Johnsons as owners. Hey, look, it rots from the head down, right? Johnsons can't be upset about everything that goes on and not take on some of the blame themselves. Now, I will say this. I don't think the Johnsons are financially to blame. Like, I think they go out and they get us the free agents we want. I think they go out and try to listen to smart football people. I think that's why they got Joe Douglas. I think they tried to listen to Peyton Manning, even though that was a bad move going in with Gase. But we just can't get it right. I don't know the right answer. Like, the organization doesn't seem like it's unstable like it has been in the past. Like, for as bad as this collapse has kind of been towards, from the 6-3 start, it still doesn't feel like the wheels have completely come off. Like, I don't know I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks that, but like, it just sucks. Like, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, clearly quarterback's an issue. And Mike White, there's a lot of hope there, playing injured. I don't know. It sucks. It really sucks. I don't know I don't know what the right answer is. We need a quarterback. Blitzcrew says, glad we saw as much of Zach as we did this season. He really needs to show out before getting on the field again. Mike White looks like our floor quarterback at best. I think that's a good way to put that. I think at worst, you're bringing Mike White back for a pretty cheap deal. I don't think he's getting any starting opportunities anywhere else in the league. And I think regardless of what happens next week, even if he goes off for like 500 yards and 6 touchdowns, I don't think there's any way that he commands a massive contract. I think if I'm the Jets, I still offer him, hey, you and Zach are going to come back here and you're going to compete next year. That's the way I would spin this until you can figure out if you can get one of these other quarterbacks. Because if you can get Mike White for backup money, regardless of who your quarterback is, it may not be the worst idea, especially if you want to make the move on from Zach at some point in the offseason. Man, I just don't know. It really sucks. I don't want to see Zach again. Not till next year at the earliest. I mean, obviously we're not seeing him this year, but I don't know. It's a bad situation all the way around. Michael says, thanks for being consistent with your post-game show. Girlfriend keeps asking why I'm depressed. At least your show gives me a joined spot to cry. Michael, of course, this is on my tagline on my channel. It says, I've been a delusional Jet fan my entire life. Misery loves company. I love coming in here, particularly after a win, not so much after a loss. But I like coming back here and just kind of hashing it out with you guys. It's why this post-game takes place before my 5 takeaways, because we have this dialogue. It helps me create and digest some of the thoughts that are happening in my head, because clearly my assessment watching, isn't the full context of everything. There's stuff that goes on afterwards and that you guys hear that or see that I don't catch. So it's appreciated, Michael. Tell your girlfriend it's okay. We got your back. We're going to be talking some draft stuff soon. Hope you like the draft. Coming quick. Norse Nove says, would you be interested in Anthony Richardson as a developmental quarterback? Yes, I would. I definitely would. I don't particularly want to take him in the first round, which is where I think you would need to take him. And I don't see an option at tackle aside from McGlinchey from San Francisco. If he shakes free and he's your right tackle, you got that. You still don't know what you're doing at left tackle. So for me, first round pick, if the tackle's not there that you want, I mean, you would have to sign, I think you would have to sign Jimmy G for me to want to get on board with drafting a quarterback in the first round. And like the tackle has to be got, like there's like stuff's going to have to go, I don't want to say wrong, but it's not going to have to be perfectly right for that to happen. I don't think drafting a quarterback in the first round is going to get us to the playoffs next year. I don't think it's going to put us in Super Bowl contention next year. I think we should bring in a rookie quarterback to sit behind whoever we decide is going to be our starter for next year. And then Zach can just sort of be, hopefully something turns up and he's okay. Or at least becomes some kind of trade bait or increases his trade value enough to move on from him. Anthony Richardson as developmental quarterback, yes, just not in the top 15. I don't think that would be a wise selection. Mumtaz says Lions, Vikings, Seahawks, all horrible defenses that looked like 85 Bears against us because New England showed them that if you stop the run, we can't do anything. Yeah, look, it all stems back to the first New England game, right? Like they dared Zach to throw it. Zach couldn't quite get it done. He had all the interceptions. Even Buffalo, we only won that by 3 points, and we got 2 turnovers, and they missed a field goal. Like it took a lot to get that win in Buffalo. Or not in Buffalo, against Buffalo. So, yeah, Lions, Vikings, Seahawks. I think all those teams are trending up, but when you're looking at guys like Jarrett Stidham coming in for his first game against the best defense in the league and looking the way he looks, that to me says there's clearly a problem. And I'm not sure if it's clearly a quarterback quality problem or if there's an offensive coordinator issue that can't make a quarterback look like a competent starter. Not that I don't want to say that because Mike White, I think, has made multiple quarterbacks look like competent starters. But the calling of the offense, someone's going to have to sit down and analyze, is it the play calls? Is it something that's happening on the field? Like if a player causes a holding or causes a false start prior to the drive commencing, does that then change your opinion on maybe Mike LaFleur because now he's calling a play for 1st and 15 or 1st and 20 as opposed to 1st and 10. It's too inconsistent, too many drives stall inside the 20, and I think there's a realistic shot that Mike LaFleur probably is not here next year. And I don't know if it's the right move. I really don't. I'm not sure. Hexen says JD said they aren't moving from Zach next year because secret talks with Peyton who want to develop Zach with his all-star staff he wants to hire. You heard it here first. Hexen, the only way I fire Robert Saleh is for Sean Payton, which I don't think is going to happen because you'd have to trade for Sean Payton still. I don't know if his contract holds or if it expires after after next season, when his contract, I think, would have expired with the Saints. I don't think the Jets do the trade. I don't think they're going to trade for Sean Payton. It would be the only coach I would move on from Saleh for. I do think stability is more important at this particular juncture. I don't think you're going to get any quarterback or head coach, for that matter, when you keep rotating things through. And especially if you want to go after like Jimmy G or something. If you fire LaFleur, why would Jimmy G necessarily want to come here over other places? Like the whole offense is kind of his thing. Not that I'm saying you're saying that, Hex. I'm just thinking about it in my head as I process things in real time. I don't know. I could see an offensive coordinator who believes Zach can be the guy being the guy that gets brought in, for sure. Zero says, would you trade up to select CJ Stroud? I don't know. Let's see. What does the mock draft look right? So right now, they have Seattle taking CJ Stroud at 3. So you're talking about trading up to 2 with the Bears. Whew. What are you going to have to give up? That is too much. I don't want CJ Stroud. Not for that. That's a lot to give up. And I don't know if the Jets are, I don't know if we can develop a quarterback. That's the panic, right? I want a vet quarterback. Kevin C. Jets Pretzel says, in my honest opinion, heat needs to be turned up on Saleh after this game. I defended him, but not showing up to this game after a mini bye is not acceptable. 2023, the Saleh Joe Douglas regime needs to produce a playoff berth. Yeah, I think next year you have to get the playoff berth. I think, or at the very least be like screwed out of playoffs because of some weird thing that happened. Like you have to clearly be trending up at the end of next year, to be given a year after that anyway. I mean, like you have to perform well. You have to have the quarterback looking good. I think the quarterback looking good will mean more than, I don't know. It depends who the quarterback is. That like with the quarterback comes expectations for next year. Like I do think based on our defense this year, we should have increased expectations for next year. That being said, the defense has not looked great the last few weeks. And I think you're going to have a lot of fans that do feel the need to create a Super Bowl caliber roster immediately right now when there may not necessarily be that roster there. Like, remember, we were playing really well against teams that were not very good. Now, we did keep, some games on this losing streak within check on the defensive side, but I don't know. I think there's going to be more hype around the Jets getting AVT and getting Brees and adding the draft picks and the free agents than I think we should really be expecting. Like, I don't want to overhype the bad beginning part of our schedule and then gloss over the, this rough stretch on the tail end. Like this is bad. You go on this, what are we, 1-5, 1-6 since the 6-3 start? That's not good. It's not good. I do think there needs to be some heat turned up on the coaching staff, and I think LaFleur could be the sacrificial lamb. I do think something goes down with the coaching staff this offseason. Sorless sends in his 23-month super chat for being a member. Thank you, Sorless. He says, we should bring back Frank Reich this offseason. Frank Reich is definitely, I guess would he be OC, I guess? I know we were talking, at one point in the season, we had talked about him coming in as quarterback coach because he taught Wentz, right? Do I have my name's right? So maybe there's a situation where he comes in from Philly. Well, he's not from Philly anymore. He's sitting at home after getting canned from the Colts. But does Joe Douglas make a call? I don't think it would be a bad move. We need any help in the quarterback room, and anyone that has long amounts of success in this league should not be overlooked. Ryan Cosner. What's up, dude? He says, tough loss. Sorry, man. I think next season it's Jimmy G or Carr situation. We'll see. Just feel that Wilson BS caused too much drama, in my opinion. I don't know if it was the Wilson drama. I think it was definitely the lack of just good quarterback play. And that's stemming from Zach Wilson going all the way back. I mean, really the only good game we got from Zach Wilson this year was the fourth quarter of the Steelers game. And really since then, it's been the defense, the running game carrying this team. But I do agree. I think Jimmy G and Carr are the two quarterbacks you look at in this situation. Carr being the interesting one because I think there's more life to him, even with him playing maybe in a poor, playing poorly in cold weather. Jimmy G, knowing the offense, knowing the coaching staff, that just feels like such the no-brainer. And especially with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy competition kind of going on in San Francisco, he's got to be the only one out. I just don't know if Jimmy G chooses us. Because, why? If you're looking at the Jets and you're looking at the Dolphins, I like Mike McDaniel a little bit more than I like Mike LaFleur right now. I like, no state income tax versus New Jersey, New York. I like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle more than, the Jets' weapons currently established right now. So if I'm Jimmy G, I think you're seriously considering the Dolphins. I think that he will consider the Jets. I think the Raiders potentially, depending on what happens down there. I think, maybe a long shot or probably a long shot for Tennessee and for the Patriots, I would think. But I would think the Jets and Dolphins are probably going after him at the same time. Carr, probably similar situation. Miami or the Jets are going to be two pretty likely landing spots. Maybe Indianapolis. It's not a great division. And then, you got a good running game, right? I don't know. I just don't know where the Jets go. Kim says, had a drought for a while, need a sip of playoffs. Yeah, my thirst needs to be quenched. 12 years without playoffs. Not good. Denver's the next closest at 2015. 7-year stretch for them. Juan says, we need a new offensive coordinator. We are always in the same formats with a tight end in motion. We are the only team I have seen that don't run a jet sweep for their playmakers. That's not right at all. We've run plenty of jet sweeps with Barrios and Elijah Moore, a little bit from Garrett Wilson. Even Jeff Smith got some of those. I don't particularly love it, to be honest. Let's let's see. We are the only team I've seen that don't run it. I don't know exactly what you're talking about, Juan. But yeah, look, I think offensive coordinator could definitely be the play for the Jets this offseason, and then you just hope you have something in Zach. Hopefully something shakes loose and you got something there. I don't know. I don't know. I got nothing. Muttvile says, Ryan, this one hurts so bad right now. Decent quarterback play, and we are 12-4. We have to get the quarterback right. I don't care if it's Lamar Jackson or a trade for Carr and Adams. Just give us a quarterback so we can end this drought next season playoffs, says Muttviles. I don't know what we do, dude. Competent quarterback play feels like this team would have been a lot further, but this offensive line getting hurt, like AVT going down, was crippling. I want every penny spent on the offensive line this offseason and just make it work. Tomlinson not working out, horrible free agency signing. Wound up being terrible. Brown, false start early in this game. Fant, getting smoked. What do? You can't replace every offensive lineman. Oh, it just sucks. I'm with you. Mudfiles. It sucks. We got to get a quarterback. Brian Dolan. It's good, man. He says, trash team, no viable quarterback on the roster. Saleh is a fraud and is over his head, and Joe Douglas, not safe either. Burn it down. Fire Bob tomorrow. Get on the phone with Peyton. Frank Reich. Plan B. Trash. I don't like shaking up coaching staffs. I don't think it's wise. If you want to pull the trigger on an offensive coordinator and keep the rest of the staff, okay, that's fine. I understand it. I think because of the value you've placed on the number 2 overall pick in Zach Wilson, I think you can make that kind of move and not be criticized too harshly because of it. But firing the coaching staff, if you were able to bring in Peyton, that's one thing. I don't want to trade for Peyton, and I really think Peyton is probably going to sit out another year and try to come in with Caleb Williams from USC. I think that's the player he wants to draft, and I think he'll go to the team with the first pick next year. I think that's probably what winds up happening. As far as firing Saleh, I don't want to fire Saleh. He's in over his head right now. I don't think there's any way I can argue that. I do like your plan. I like Plan B. I think it makes sense. I just don't think we do it. I don't know. I see some Barrios is overrated. Yeah, we paid $5 million for a guy to fair catch punts and not even always fair catch them. RJ McPott says, quick draft talk. Who do you want at 13th? Offensive line, safety, or linebacker? It's offensive line all day. I don't even know who's there. Let's take a look at it. All right, cool. So this is kind of who I said. I pulled up the Tankathon mock draft. They have the Jets taking Broderick Jones, the tackle from Georgia. That's who I had the Jets taking in the McShay mock draft. I said I would look for Broderick Jones from Georgia as the tackle to kind of keep your eye on. Now, I don't know where else, players could kind of fall. It looks like some other guys that are up here. Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. Looks like he's the top tackle on the board on Tankathon. Parrish Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State is the next one. Broderick Jones, for me, I like the big name school with the offensive tackles. I'm not going to lie. So for me, the Georgia kid is the one I would be looking at. I don't want safety and I don't want linebacker in the first round. Not that we're picking this high. If we were picking in the 20s like we were hoping to be, like 22, 23, I would have been that direction. Danny George, thank you so much for the super chat. I don't see anything else attached to it. I'll scroll down, see if I see anything. Here we go. Danny George says, great season. Gonna miss your videos, even though you make content in the offseason. Danny George, thank you so much for hanging out, and all you guys for hanging out in here. I'm gonna be continuing making content, like even regardless of what happens with the Jets season. The 2023 season starts today. Like, let's go. Let's start talking draft. Let's start talking free agents. We're going to lick our wounds. It's going to be a little frustrating. But I'm going to do mock drafts I'm going to do mock off seasons based on quarterback situations that could happen. So like, what do we think Jimmy G gets? How can we build around a team with Jimmy G? Oh, you think we get Derek Carr? How do we build a team around Derek Carr? Oh, you think we get a drafted quarterback? How do we build around a drafted quarterback? So I'm going to do all that stuff, all the fun. But Danny George, thank you for hanging around. Much appreciated. Oh, what else are you guys talking about in here? Joey Eddy says, now we have to worry about whether or not Zach is the guy next year because they didn't just let him play out the season and for absolutely no reason now. Joey, no, Zach is not the guy. There's no situation where I look at Zach over any point during this season and I say, he could be the quarterback for next year. I don't think it happens. I think Zach, regardless of what he showed in the last, say, 4 games of our calendar season, wouldn't have shown me enough to rely on him for next year. Like, at best case scenario for Zach, he's traded to another team and he has an opportunity to start. Worst case scenario, I'm just holding on to Zach and I'm letting him sit. Who cares? We got to pay him anyway. Just let him sit. Ride the pine. I don't think the choice to let him sit hurt us in any capacity. I think actually not sitting him earlier may have hurt our chances. I don't think there's any situation where Zach wins any of the last few games that White lost. Mumtaz says, draft offensive line, then linebacker, because if CJ is going to pass breakup, he is not fast, and Walker made us look old. Also, even last offseason, we said we need run-stuffing defensive tackle. Look, I think the long run by Walker earlier in this game was more an issue with Jordan Whitehead. Whitehead, to me, this year is the second most disappointing free agent across the board that we got last year. I think for me, Tomlinson's got to be top of the list. Unless I'm just missing something. Tomlinson's got to be top of the list because our offensive line did not get better. It got very much for bringing in a Pro Bowler, that should have been a much bigger gain overall. Then Whitehead. I mean, the guy doesn't wrap up on tackles. He missed or got blocked out of the way on the long run that Walker had. Now, maybe there's someone else going back at the game tape, but when I clearly looked at Whitehead, he looked like he was maybe having the issue there. And then against the Bengals earlier this season, he didn't wrap up and allowed what's-his-face to go all the way down the other end of the field. So, I don't know. I've got a few issues with our team, and I think that's sort of why I'm a little more hesitant to, blow our load on, say, Lamar Jackson. I still think we need our draft picks in some capacity. I don't want to move them too quickly. Michael Rubin said, where'd it go? Michael Rubin says, what would you tell defeated Jets fans to uplift? I would say look overall at the season and realize all the issues that the Jets had and the questions we had coming into the season. Now, our defense is way further along than we thought. Our offense, look, we hit it out of the park this last draft. Regardless of how the season went, you look at every draft pick we have, there's still a legitimate shot that we have offensive and defensive rookie of the year on this team right now. I would say looking less likely. If we had competent quarterback play, I think it's a runaway, favorite for offensive and defensive rookie of the year this year. I think Garrett Wilson was victim of bad quarterback play, and look, Breece Hall would have been offensive rookie of the year had he stayed healthy. So I think that in and of itself, this last draft class is enough reason to be happy and excited for the near future. As far as quarterback, look, Zach Wilson, you wanted to see at least a tick up in the right direction, and then you could bring in competition for him going into next year. Unfortunately, you didn't even see the arrow point sideways on Zach Wilson. You couldn't even say he was at where he was at the end of last year. He looks bad, really bad on a team loaded with talent. That's the biggest concern. And I'm sure that's not uplifting anyone, Michael, by me saying this, but the nice thing is our defense is so good, the Jets are going to be looked at as a premier location for talent to come to. And I think Jimmy G probably is the most realistic option for us going into next season. John says, legit. Thanks for your content this season. Assuming we make LaFleur the fall guy, do you feel like Frank Reich is a realistic option? Yeah, I think he is. I think it makes plenty of sense to do that. Joe Douglas and Frank Reich were on the same staff in Philadelphia when they won a Super Bowl with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles. So I would venture to bet that would probably be a common theme. Now, I don't know if that's the offensive coordinator or maybe it's the quarterback coach. Maybe the quarterback coach is the one that says, oh, nope, sorry, we got to pull the plug on that, and we're going to bring in Frank Reich. You're going to be the quarterback coach to assist LaFleur as OC. Because honestly, I would like LaFleur to be the guy. He's scheming guys open. We clearly need another voice in the quarterback room, and you need some insight. I think the loss of Greg Knapp cannot be overstated, but the loss of Greg Knapp, not just for Zach Wilson, but for Mike LaFleur as well. And I think that's where you lose some of the veteran leadership in the play calling department, because LaFleur obviously did not call plays out in San Francisco. I think Frank Reich is a very realistic possibility. Momo Adamo, did Quinnen Williams play today? He did play. Although they didn't have to do anything. Like, Seattle's offense, right down the field. Right down the field. We couldn't stop anything. Can't stop anything. You don't stop the run, it's going to be a long day. Jets gave up a lot of explosive plays. Hawks seem like he's not too happy with me. Ryan doesn't think coaching has any impact on play by his views on Zach. What? I don't. That's news. I think Zach is clearly bad. I think our offense could have been catered to him. Look, I don't think Justin Fields is a good quarterback, but I think they are clearly getting production out of him by changing the offense. I don't think that necessarily makes him a good quarterback, but I think you can get production and good play out of quarterbacks. You're looking at Brock Purdy. You're looking at Jarrett Stidham. Look at all the young quarterbacks that are having success around the league, and for LaFleur not to get success out of Zach is definitely concerning. And I think the reason Mike White was a backup is clearly because they don't trust him to go too far down the field, which I thought we were kind of over. I thought we saw that with the Bears game and some other stuff happening. But if the Bears have a halfway competent defense, maybe we don't even win that game. I don't know. Just sucks. It always comes down to this at the end of the year. Danny George says, we need a quarterback, offensive line, and pass covering linebackers. Yeah, man, the defense is like a weird spot to be concerned with for next year, because all three linebackers may not be here. Quincy Williams and Quan Alexander are both linebackers that are on expiring contracts, and CJ Mosley has a monster contract that you don't want to hold on to for next year. So I guess that for me, if I were trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I think you do have to add depth to the linebacker room. I think you have to draft some guys, have to bring in some players, but I would try to bring back the guys we do have, because I don't think they're terrible. I just think that a lot of things compounded towards the end of the year, and I think if you can go to CJ Mosley and say, hey, we want to make you retire a Jet, lower your cap hit, let's bring back Quan, let's bring back Quincy, let's figure it out, go that route. Maybe he's a little more willing to do that. I don't know. Offensive line, we clearly need help on. And I think the tackle from the 49ers would be high up on my list. You got to hope you get something from Becton, and you got to draft some linemen in this draft. I mean, if you spent every pick on it, I'd be okay with it. It's that bad. Joe S. says, do you think the D was a product of backup quarterback? The D meaning Seattle or our D? I would say our defense probably gave up a little bit more over the last few weeks because of poor quarterback play and inability to get first downs and touchdowns and scoring opportunities. I think it put the defense in bad situations. I think as far as the other defense, like Seattle's defense, I think them selling out against the run because you trust Mike White, or you trust your defense to take care of Mike White on the back end. Like every throw from Mike White was behind target today. I didn't make it every throw. I could. I have the plays, all here for it if I wanted to, but I didn't make one for today. Mike White was bad. He was not good. He was 50% completion percentage, and that doesn't include the sacks that he took that were also pass plays as well. And part of this is on coaching because, look, you shouldn't have Mike White throwing the ball 50-plus times, but when you're down, when you have 17 points get added to your score in the first 3 drives, the running game, you do lose that a little bit. There's not as much of a threat. And when you're running it out of the shotgun, I don't know what it is about us. We love running the ball out of the shotgun, and it just seems to never work. I don't know. I don't know what the right plan is at offensive line. Clearly, quarterback's an issue, but offensive line is an issue regardless of who's there at quarterback. And I don't feel confident at all going into next year with the amount of linemen we have currently. I don't know. Omar says, Ryan, you keep talking about Fields. You never wanted Zach. What? That's not true at all. I did like Fields. I thought Fields, when we watched the Ohio State versus Clemson game live, I thought Fields was going to be our quarterback. I thought he was one tough son of a bitch. But then those views shifted as I watched more and more of Zach. So I did want Zach. In hindsight, if you're asking me what I would do in that draft, I would trade down and I would draft Micah Parsons. That would be the move. If I could go back in hindsight, I would take a trade down and I would go with Micah Parsons. Especially if you can get like Jimmy G. Although I don't remember if Jimmy G was, if the 49ers took, was Parsons at that pick or was Parsons the pick before? It might have been the pick before. That would have been the move to make, I think. Ooh, Anthony D says, Ryan, you're making a lot of excuses, my friend. This is about coaching on the field coaching. I like Robert Saleh. I think he's a good coach, but a good coach has to know when to delegate and when you're leaving me hanging and when what? And when to separate relationships. Yeah, but who are you bringing in halfway through the season? Like, are you talking about like the offensive coordinator? They could pull the trigger. Look, if they pull the trigger on the offensive coordinator, I don't really care. I think you still need a quarterback. Like, I think LaFleur is falling on the sword because of poor quarterback play more than the poor quarterback play is a symptom of a bad offensive coordinator. We haven't had perfect coaching at all. I think the detriment for coaching in this game was more so that no one looked ready to play after what looked like we had a really good shot at getting into the playoffs. This looked like a failure from a motivation standpoint, which is on coaching, and a failure from like a let's get up and get ready from the important part of our team, our defense, that we've relied on all year. We got 17 points scored on us like immediately. That's on the defense. That's on Saleh. Today's loss was absolutely on coaching. Citybert says, should we rest guys next week in Miami? Oh, that sounds terrible. No, I don't think you should do that. I don't know the play, though. I don't want to see anyone old playing. I think you get as many young guys that might be here next year as possible, and hope that you get like some growth for next year. Like, I don't want to see any of our young guys. I mean, God forbid Garrett Wilson or Sauce Gardner goes down with like a serious injury in the last game of the season in a game that doesn't mean anything. I'd be pretty frustrated. But at the same time, you want to see these young guys get as many reps as possible. So I'm playing the young guys. I don't think there's anything you can really gain from the quarterback situation. So I don't know what you do. You're kind of like limping through the last week of the season at this point. Really ugly. Astamar, Darkstar. It says, I think Zach Wilson would have scored more than 6 points. Zach Wilson would have found the end zone. What makes you say that? We had 3 points last week when he got pulled from the game for Strevler. There's nothing that remotely makes me think that Zach Wilson could have moved the ball better than Mike White. Now, I don't think Mike White had a good day at all. I don't think the answer to our quarterback situation for 2023 is on the roster currently. Brian Dolan says, bro, Frank Wright ain't coming here to hold little LaFleur's hand. He's next Doug Peterson. Hell, I wanted Daboll last year. Get coaches competent on offense and quarterback. I wanted Daboll and Kafka. If you guys want to go back and watch my video before we hired Saleh, I very much wanted Daboll and Kafka. But I'm really happy with Saleh. I do think Saleh, and I think Ulbrich, for the most part, this season, looked good. As far as Frank Reich coming here to be holding little LaFleur's hand, I think it depends on where Frank Reich is as a coach. Like, is he to the point where someone like, where you see some older guys in general across the league? Like, are you in like that Jack Del Rio kind of like older stage of just being a coordinator? Maybe you don't want to be a head coach. If he's at that point where he wants to be a head coach still, then yeah, he's going to be an offensive coordinator. He's not going to be a quarterback coach. But I think if you pay him the money and he can turn someone around, I think that's not necessarily like a bad thing either way. Yeah, I don't know. He's probably going to have to be OC. I think LaFleur is going to get axed. That's my guess. I would be very surprised if we kept him. Joe Campone says, Will Levis as quarterback one. That's a Kentucky kid. I have not watched enough college to know whether I should or should not like any of these quarterbacks coming out. Mitt Flair, they should 100% play Zach next week. What do we have to lose? I guess that's fair, right? Like what's to, I don't know. I guess maybe the opposite question could be asked too. Like what's to gain? Like maybe if you think Mike White gives Garrett Wilson the best chance to be offensive rookie of the year, maybe that's like what you hang your hat on and you play well for. I'm sitting here during halftime watching doing the halftime show with Green Bean and Matt, and friggin' on my TV pops up advertisements for season tickets for 2023 for the Jets at halftime of this game. Jets had already packed it in. They're like, marketing team, let's go. Let's sell the tickets for next year. Breece Hall, slap him on the poster. We don't even give a shit about this year. I just get frustrated. This shit sucks. I just want competent play. Sean Ganley says, lots of two faces here. Love the Jets in May. Love them in October, but want all the same people praised then, fired now. Why the dumpster fire that is this franchise remains burning bright? Sean's not wrong. But look, fans are fanatics. We are here for a reason. We're here because we want to see our team win. And unfortunately, they haven't done that. And I think there's a lot of things to be excited about. I think being back in May and looking at the draft, you could be excited. I think hopeful for your quarterback situation. This year, now in October, you could have looked towards the same things. Hopeful for the quarterback situation, like the draft. You lose AVT, you lose Breece Hall, you lose Corey Davis for a chunk of games. You just keep taking all these hits. It's not good. Jets were more fool's gold this year than not. Let's remember, it was what, 99.9% chance we were going to lose the Browns game. Like realistically, we should have one more loss. This team should be 6-10 right now. And I don't want to play that game because we did win, but like as fluky as that one was, like I'm sure there's a game that we lost that could have gone the other way. Like let's call the Vikings game. The Vikings game, and I guess that's a wash then, right? I don't know. It's all right to flip-flop. It's okay. I'm certainly a victim of it. I stand by my convictions, but I'll tell you when I'm wrong. Dante says, side note, where can I buy that beautiful Jet sign behind you? Bam! That is a sheet metal sign. It's actually 2 layers of sheet metal. There's the green portion, that's the darker portion, and then there's the white portion behind it. And I took an LED strip and I looped it around the inside, and it gives it that glowing effect. You can see the little plug right there. So just know that if you buy the sign, it's not actually a light. It's just supposed to be a sheet metal sign. But if you go to Etsy, I'm not sure if you could type in sheet metal sign if it still comes out. It used to be like Bulwarks or something like that, I think was the name of the vendor. If you typed in Jets Talk, all one word, there used to be a discount coupon for it a few years ago, but I don't know if that's still a thing. If it is, you should get it because Wyatt, the guy that gave it to me, is a really nice dude. Yeah. So Etsy. We have over 1,000 votes on our poll in the live chat right now. Who do you want quarterback, or who do you want at quarterback for 2023? One of White or Wilson. That has a 10%. That is our lowest number. Jimmy G at 14%. Someone else 29%. That is the comment in the chat or comment down below. Let me know who that would be. I don't know who it is, but 47% are saying Derek Carr. If Derek Carr would choose the Jets, Derek Carr, I think, should be the option. I think you're more likely to get the health from Carr. Like, if you get Carr's baseline level of play and health through his entire career, the Jets are probably in the playoffs right now. Is it enough to win you a Super Bowl? I don't know. Right now, I'd settle for friggin' playoffs. Like, as much as I want to say, oh, he can't get you to a Super Bowl, who the hell am I to, like, nitpick? I just want to win some damn games. I don't know. I was hoping Jared Stidham would look bad, because at least if Stidham looks bad, then Carr makes me feel a little bit better. And then maybe there's a situation where you're like, oh, hey, Josh McDaniels, the quarterback guru, would you like Zach Wilson in some sort of fantasy trade that gets Carr and Adams over here in some magical capacity? Yeah, would love that. Carr feels like the one to bring in. I think it's got to be Carr or Jimmy G, right? I would lean Jimmy G as the guy that has the upper hand in terms of signing here because of everything I mentioned before with the coaching staff, but I think it's just as likely he goes to Miami, depending on what happens with Tua. We need Tua to come back more than anything, because Miami looks much more like a favorable destination with no taxes or limited taxes than New York right now. We are reeling a little bit. Not that Miami's looking so good, but Miami missing their quarterback looks more competitive than the Jets right now with sort of their quarterbacks playing. I see you guys talking about Sam Darnold in the chat. Sam Darnold is so frustrating because I'm sitting there earlier in the day watching this game, and I'm like, wow, man, Sam's having himself a day. I miss Sam. Like, could you imagine if we had Sam plus whoever we took with the Zach pick? Like, that might be all right. And then I think, oh, there's that interception. That thrown ball to the end zone that just comes up short and lands in the defender's hand. And then I see 2 fumbles. Sam Darnold is simultaneously the reason the Panthers fought back to get into the playoff conversation and the reason they got knocked out of the playoffs because of his bad play. I don't know. Omar says, Ryan, you have low aspirations. I was calling for the playoffs at 6-3. I want a team that can compete with Allen and Mahomes, and developing Zach gives us that. This season was never about playoffs. It wasn't about playoffs until we got to 6-3, and then it became about playoffs because you don't know when you're going to get to that point in time again, and 25% of this roster is going to be different next year. You have a 25% flip over year on rosters, on average. If you consider the average length of an NFL career is 3.5 years, math gets you to that number. So yeah, it wasn't about playoffs. And I do think Zach has the highest upside. You know, could he be a Mahomes? Could he be Allen? It's entirely possible. He's going to have to overcome some astronomical odds to even have a shot at being like a bad version of those guys. Astamar Darkstar says, we need 4,000 yards passing since 1967. Get Carr. Carr would be the leading passer on this team for 7 of our 8 best statistical passing years. If you plugged in Carr, that's assuming he plays to his career average this week and next week on the Raiders. He would have over 4,000 yards again this year. I think consistency with health and consistency in play are what I find most attractive about Carr. I know Jimmy G can get you to a Super Bowl. I don't know if Carr can. Carr's gotten you to the playoffs, and he could have won MVP in 2016. I mean, he broke his leg and got 3rd in MVP voting and lost out to Matt Ryan and Tom Brady, the 2 guys that were in the Super Bowl. I don't know. I like Carr. Carr to me is exciting. Carr to me is the new and exciting quarterback that I could get behind. Hebrew Polymath says, Lamar Jackson greater than Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe. For sure, maybe. Lamar it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. Look at what teams gave up for Watson. Look what they gave up for Russell Wilson. Now, I don't think Lamar's going to be that bad, but like, that is alarming. Especially with a team that hasn't really built around a quarterback anyway, to try and build around Lamar Jackson. I feel like that's a pretty, you're asking for a lot there. Let's see. Kev Chatta says, Alex, exactly. I'm preaching to rewatch postgame show to learn what we need. What's missing? I think we're missing a whole bunch right now. We're missing linebackers, safeties, offensive line, quarterback. Ugh. Let's see. Chris Hoops says, everyone forgets Carr in his prime is damn near an MVP, but after injury, slow regression, but still applicable. I don't think he's bad. I think he was clearly MVP level in 2016, and it's just kind of been, I don't know. It depends how much, I don't know, it depends. So this is a cool comment. Alex comes in and says, Carr sucks in cold weather. Carr averages 1 touchdown and has thrown for over 222 yards once in his 0-7 career as a starting quarterback in games below 36 degrees. Fun fact, if the Jets get 200 yards passing and a touchdown with no interception, we might have won a game in shit conditions. Considering we beat Zach with 100, or we beat the Bills with Zach with 150 yards and 1 touchdown. I think Carr averaging 200 and a touchdown in cold weather will be just fine. I'm not concerned about Carr's cold weather games. Sean says, issues with Lamar and Jimmy. Can they stay on the field for the entire year? That's where I come back to with Lamar. Lamar is so incredibly electric. 1, are we going to build an offense around him? 2, do you honestly see Joe Douglas giving up the draft capital needed, paying the contract needed, and foregoing any insight from his former team in Baltimore as to why they didn't want to re-sign him anyway? I don't see all these things happen. Lamar just seems like it's just not going to happen. I don't see Lamar happening. Jimmy G, can he stay on the field? Totally concerned. Totally concerned. We'll see. Edward Ziff says, on the bright side, we can start doing mock drafts. Edward! That's true. That's entirely true. Alex says, I'm sorry for you guys, but so happy about the Giants. Yeah, look, you guys, I don't think your team is as complete as the Jets right now. I think if you took Daniel Jones and dropped him onto the Jets, I think that's a really, really good team, minus, some offensive line issues. You guys have the better offensive line right now. I think Alex, Andrew Thomas has really come into his own. Yeah, I'm jealous. We're sitting on the outside looking in. Giants are looking pretty good right now. I know a lot of fans are liking the Daboll, Kafka, Martindale tandem or trio you guys got going. Duke says, I'm sick of mock drafts. I haven't done any, so I can't say I'm sick of mock drafts, but I'm certainly not thrilled to be doing them. I would much prefer to be in the playoffs. Ryan Fitzgerald, average quarterback play will conceal many of our issues. I don't think we're too far off. Quarterback, re-sign the linebackers, free safety is a must, and left tackle through the draft. This is kind of where I fall with on Ryan's side of things. Figure out the quarterback situation, re-sign your linebackers. I think you can get a safety in the second round, and then I think you use your first round pick on a tackle. I would say third round, assuming you get one of Jimmy G or Carr or something like that, I would say in the third round, I might take a stab either at a linebacker or a developmental quarterback. I'd have to look and see where the quarterbacks really shake out. I don't know how many there are that even have athletic upside that you'd want to take after the second round. But yeah, free safety, second round, left tackle, draft, re-sign your own linebackers, take care of Quinnen, get a quarterback. Sounds easy. We've just been find a quarterback for 50 friggin' years. Ugh. Daniel says, credit to Seattle. They were ready to win, executed well. That said, we had plenty of opportunities, failed to counterpunch, bitter end. Yeah, look, we didn't have any answers. Didn't have any answers. Sauce playing on Metcalf looked pretty good. Had a little help from a drop there at the end, but by and large, like what our young guys are showing us, like even Jermaine Johnson getting in the face of Geno Smith a few times. I liked seeing that. I don't know. Anthony D, quick look. Who are the top free agent safeties and centers coming out for this offseason? I don't particularly want to look veteran safety. I would prefer to save some money and go via the draft. Center's kind of the same rationale, but I'll be honest, I don't know who is a free agent center this year. And I'm not sure if bringing back McGovern is the right move, especially if you're going to wind up cutting like Tomlinson anyway. Like, it's not like him playing next to anyone has really helped the cohesion on the offensive line. It feels like we could replace 4 guys on the offensive line and be fine. Not fine, but like would make sense. Like, everyone but AVT is questionable on this offensive line. Greg says, too soon with mock drafts? I'm still mourning. Yep. Antivirus says, Jets need to lose next week to get a top 10 pick. We do have the potential to get a top 10 pick. And I don't know if you guys know of a site that shows you like the percentage chance of what draft pick a team gets, but I'd love to see that. I would say it's a long shot for the Jets to get into the top 10. I do think there's a real shot we like accidentally win. Not that we're not trying to win next week, but I think it's going to be a situation where it's like really ugly and both teams are like slapping each other with like wet pool noodles the whole time, and like someone accidentally misses a field goal to win it and the other team wins it. Like that's how I feel like with Miami at the end of the year. It's just going to be such a shit game. Ugh. Joe Campione, does Tankathon have odds? Is that I don't think it does. I think it just shows you like the current rankings. Yeah, I guess let me know if you see something or if I'm just missing something on the page. I don't see a spot where it tells you that. Let's see. Ryan says, is Salah being too generous with Zach, or is he trying to tamper the media with saying he wants to keep him? Yeah, look, I think you want to keep every one of your players until you don't want to keep them anymore. And I think that's what you saw with Sam Darnold. I think it's what you saw with Jamal Adams. We're not trading Jamal. We're not trading Sam. They're on our team. They're going to be here for the foreseeable future. And then you trade him once you get a good trade offer. I think there was far more value in Sam Darnold with the incompetence of the coaching staff and the lack of talent around him. And I think there was far more talent with Jamal Adams than we currently see with Zach Wilson. And I don't think we're going to get a trade offer the same way we did with those 2 other players. If we do, I would say if we're offered a second or higher, you pull the trigger and you move on from Zach at this point. But I think it's more realistic that the Jets hold on to him and just hope that they start to develop him. Because look, if you had told me, Daniel Jones has showed far more through his time in New York than Zach has in his time. But if you had told me going into the season, I'd say, look, I don't think Daniel Jones is the guy. Like, I don't think he's a good quarterback, or I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I just don't know if the Giants if he's going to be the answer, because they're going to be in a tough spot, right? Like, they're either going to have to franchise tag him for $45 million after the season, or they're going to have to give him a massive contract. If there's a situation where Daniel Jones shakes free, he might jump to the top of my list for quarterbacks. Now, I don't think the Giants are going to let that happen. I do think they franchise tag him and they wind up working out a long-term contract and he stays there. I've been calling him Josh Allen light for like the last year. Beto from Austin says, sad, frustrated, angry, disappointed. At least the draft talk didn't start in October, guys. We were competitive, mostly improving every year. Playoffs mandated next year. Go Jets, hit the like button. Thank you, Beto. Yeah, I would say this season played out. It's funny, before the season I said the floor should be 7 wins, which, yup. Yup, 7 wins. I thought we could get to 9 wins. I thought that was was a possibility, and I really think we could have. I think if we had remotely decent quarterback play, like if you have bottom rung quarterback play, you're talking like probably an extra win or 2. And I think if you have average quarterback play, you might be talking like 3 or 4 more wins on the season overall. But yeah, it's frustrating. I'm not overly bummed about the season, but I'm bummed based on the adjusted expectations halfway through the season. I think that's important to look at. Abe says, if you told me we would have a new offensive coordinator and rolling with Zach, I would be okay with that. with a solid backup quarterback. Ugh, no. No, 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 no. Like, if they want to, I don't know if you could sell me on Zach with a new OC. I don't think that does it for me. I've seen Zach play so poorly on easy completions that I just don't see a new offense helping Zach in, like, with those throws. If he was making those throws and just couldn't figure out some other stuff, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with Zach. And this is someone who wants Zach to be the guy. I've said it in multiple videos. I don't want Zach traded because I don't think we're going to get value back for him. And I think it's far more likely that he turns it around and like wows us than him getting us a good draft pick in a trade. Joe S. says, Joe Douglas has to take a hit with the quarterback, offensive line, and no cap. We don't have no cap. We should have plenty of cap to do anything we want to do. We're not going to have like the $100 million that we've had in the past just because we actually have some talent on this team at this point. Joe Douglas needs to take a hit based on the quarterback. Yep. Should absolutely take a hit on the quarterback. He drafted a smaller school quarterback in a COVID year where they didn't play in front of fans, had an adjusted schedule, limited metrics you were able to kind of gauge and everything. And we got burnt. I think there's a lot of upside with Zach, and it just did not work out. As far as the offensive line, I liked it going into the year. I thought McGovern was fine last year. I thought he was, for the most part, not the main issue this year. Elijah Vera-Tucker staying healthy would have really helped this team. Tomlinson and missing on him, going from a Pro Bowler to virtually the worst guard in the league, I'm not sure how to read that. Like, was it just the other guys around him in San Francisco that allowed him to play as well as he did? That seems like the case. I would say he's definitely gone, and I think you're going to have more cap space if you say move on from Tomlinson. Let's say you move AVT back over to left guard. Maybe you have Herbig re-sign, stay at the right guard position. You have those two positions. You got to figure out center if you bring back McGovern or not. I think you have to bring in the offensive lineman from San Francisco as your right tackle to compete with Mitchell. And then I think you have Becton, Brown, and first-round draft pick on the other side. I think Joe Douglas can get us out of this situation, but he absolutely deserves criticism because of how some picks and free agency things have performed. Ricardo Green 2 says, I support you against the Dolphins, but I'm glad to see the AFC East back in its natural order. Go Bills. Ricardo Green, you can go kick rocks. I don't like you tonight. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know who I want to get into the playoffs at this point. I just don't want to see the Patriots get in. Like, is there a situation where I don't know, do I want the Dolphins to get in? Would it make more sense for them to get in? Can they even get in still? I guess they can get in, right? If they beat us? Is that how that works? If they get in, well, they don't have a first-round pick anyway. So I guess I would prefer the Patriots maybe to get in. That's a weird thing, right? Because the Dolphins don't have a first-round pick, I guess we would want the worst pick possible for our other division team. I don't know. I hate this. I wish we were talking about our playoff chances. Anthony D says, Ryan, I think Joe has to go to bat for Saleh to keep his job. I like Saleh. I think he could be a good coach, but I think this was a monumental collapse and the Jets fireman Genie off a winning season. Yeah, I guess it wouldn't be totally absurd after canning Mangini. Mangini one was weird. That was I think, I don't know, a lot of that had to do with Favre getting hurt and collapsing from 8-3 and just sputtering down the stretch there. This was bad. This didn't look good. I'm not going to lie. I don't know how to sugarcoat it. It just sucks. I think the expectations at the beginning of the season might be the only thing that saves the coaching staff at the end of the season. I think with Mangini, he was in, year 3 or 4 And then it just seemed like maybe it was getting stale. And maybe they pulled the trigger on that, especially when they were able to get Rex Ryan. Joshua says, is there a shot the Raiders cut Carr? Oops, sorry. Is there a shot the Raiders cut Carr and we sign him, plus we trade for his best friend Adams, only giving up Mims, 1 first-rounder, and a second next year? If we can do it, I would. I do think there is a real shot that the Jets get Carr as a free agent. If I were Carr, I would tell the Raiders, I'm going to be a Raider for next season because I have a full no trade clause. There's nothing you can do that will allow that would cause me to want to waive that no trade clause. So you're going to keep me on your team for next year, or you're not. And I think the Raiders will come back and say, we're not. And they're going to cut him. And I think he's going to be a free agent and he's going to get to go wherever he wants. The issue with that is, does he wind up getting like a Kirk Cousins level deal? Like, does he get $45 million a year? I mean, I guess probably not. I guess if you think he's going to get that much, someone's going to trade for him and then keep him on a non-guaranteed contract, maybe rework the deal a little bit. That's probably what would have had to happen. I'm guessing he probably gets like $30 million a year. I would sign Derek Carr to like a 3-year, $100 million deal. I think it is worth it. Maybe his asking price gets a little bit lower with Stidham looking good against bad defenses. That might help us. But I definitely think that Carr is going to get cut because he's not going to waive his no-trade clause. I think he wants to continue to play with his friends. As far as giving up Mims, a first-rounder, and next year second, yes, all damn day I'll do that. I would do that in a heartbeat. Adams is like the receiver that we kind of need. Like, you cut Corey Davis and you bring in Devontae Adams to go alongside with Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. Holy hell. That would be incredible. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I hope it happens. Jonathan Moore says, man, stuck at 7 wins for a long time now. Sucks. Yeah, dude, since like right after the bye week. Right after the bye. Just real kick in the nuts. Yeah, you guys got the Bears. You only have to win 2 games the rest of the way out to get into the playoffs, but I'm sure you got it. Lions. Vikings. Jaguars. Seahawks. Come on. Allen says it was definitely a better season than last, but disappointing after the way the year looked halfway through. Yeah, that's exactly it, right? Like, if you're looking at preseason expectations, oh man, you want to play some real like devil's advocate for a second? And maybe it doesn't change anything because he wound up getting hurt anyway. Zach Wilson gets hurt in preseason. There was like, I had a video queued up where I was like, we got to trade for Jimmy G right now because he's going to get like, he's either going to get cut or, 49ers aren't going to be able to re-sign him, whatever. That's almost what we needed to have happen for Zach to sit and learn another year. Like, as screwy as that sounds, that's like almost what would have been like the better situation in this. That sucks. But yeah, halfway through the season, we looked legit. And then the rest of the way through the season, not so much. Oh, God. Guys, this is frustrating. Girls, this is frustrating. I don't know what to do. I've been live for like an hour and 10 minutes. Overall thoughts on the Jets. Let's bring it back around. Mike White didn't do enough at quarterback today. Don't think we should have had to use him for 50 attempts or 50 called pass plays when you figure the 46 attempts plus however many sacks he wound up taking. I don't think Mike White's the answer for next year. I'm not sure who I want to play next week. I understand fans that want to say Wilson because you kind of say, oh, well, why not? Like, if you're not going to bring back White next year, why even play him in the final week of the season? I don't know if I've actually settled on where I want to be in terms of that. But overall, I do think there is a real good shot LaFleur winds up getting fired. I think we wind up bringing in someone like Frank Reich. I think we bring in a quarterback. Maybe it's Carr to sit behind or to play, and then you just hope you get whatever you get out of Zach Wilson. I don't know. It's rough. This is frustrating. We got to lick our wounds. I don't know what we do next week. Honestly, let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, go Jets.